I'm wondering how many of you have bought any Web3 game-related token recently. During 2021, that was when the time that we had in the midst of COVID, and the worst time ever in terms of recession. If I remember correctly, there were one day that Microsoft, Nvidia dropped by 30% in a matter of few days. Does that sound very familiar today? But on the other hand, what happened was Axie Infinity became the most popular game in the world. And Axie Infinity was able to get up to $9 billion US dollar in terms of FDV. However, the stock or the token went down by 94% since then to now. And the same for all other game tokens. For example, Big Time, which is also a very famous one, it dropped by around 94% as well. Shrapnel, which also dropped by similar amount of decrease. But at the same time, other coins, like meme coins, also dropped by 94% or more, right? Like the Trump coin. So is Gamefi or is Web3 game just like all the meme coins? Or is there a real utility of game or in Web3? And that is really a question. For example, I myself actually has been investing into game coins as well. And I consider myself a very good investor. I've been investing over the course of over 30 years and has been investing in companies like NetEase, FunPlus, and many other very, very good game companies. But at the same time, I invested into some Web3 companies. And these are some of the companies that all of them actually get listed in the tokens. These are Fusionist, AI Arena, Metascene, Blocklords, and these are very famous names in terms of GameFi as well. But at the same time, all of these tokens actually went down by 90% or above. So a lot of people are very, very disappointed in terms of the token price, in terms of the promises that all these games have made for our investors. And it's not fun. But let's take a step back to see what exactly is happening in the game industry and see if actually GameFi or Web3 can actually help to solve some of these problems. The game industry started in 1972, and I'm just old enough to witness the starting of this game industry. It's a very, very complicated graph here, but you don't have to worry about this. I have made it into something a lot simpler, which is like this. So what happens is that whenever there is a blockage of the game industry and don't know how it should extend, there's always a new technology, infrastructure that brings to more accessible, that brings games into become more accessible. And there is a new innovation cycle. And then there is an expansion of the markets again. So, for example, in the old days, in the 80s, there were arcade that started the game industry. And then, but arcade is very big. If you are old enough to see some of this stuff, it's like really, really big. And it only happens in somewhat like an internet cafe. And then in the States, people put in a quarter to play it. And in Asia, you play a dollar or two to play it, right? But then there was a stuck. And then it becomes a much smaller form factor. And then it went into the home, and then there's a new industry of game console. And of course, the technology continued to become better, where you can see there are 3D graphics. But see, 3D graphics is not just enough, because the 3D graphics takes up a lot of storage. And that's when CD-ROM become very important, because CD-ROM can take up a lot of memory for the games, right? And then you see PlayStation come in, and PlayStation everybody knows and becomes the most well-sold console in the world, right? And of course, then there is the internet, where internet we are able to play MMORPG, what we call, or in Chinese, like a fantasy westward journey. In Korea, there are a lot of players who play multiplayer online games, and this is when I started doing games, which is around 25 years ago. And then, of course, there is the online distribution. A lot of people use Steam, and Steam has become one of the biggest distribution platform. And then, of course, there's the mobile. There's the handphone. There's the handphone internet, smartphones, right? And then you see Clash of Clans and so on. And of course, we don't know what the future is like. But what we understand is that every time there is a new infrastructure or there is a new technology, such as virtual reality, such as Web3, or blockchain, or such as AI, that is going to bring more users or more ways for users to enjoy game. And that's every time there is a new market expansion. So how big is the game industry? Not a lot of people understand that actually the biggest single entertainment product in this world is a game, which is called GTA 5. And indeed, this game is actually almost 3 times bigger than that of the most popular ever movie in this world, which is Avatar. And in terms of viewership, it's around the same, maybe a bit less, right? But in terms of revenues, it's basically 3 times. And then in terms of the total size of the game industry, we are talking about movie adding music together. It's not as big as the game industry. And very soon, even adding TV together, the game industry is going to be bigger than the rest of all this entertainment industry. And you will think about how does it relate to the crypto industry. In blockchain, if you understand that I'm just talking about wallet address, and wallet address, some people might have 10, some people might have 100 wallet address, right? But even in terms of just the number of wallet address, it's not as big as the game industry in terms of number of people who play games. But game industry has its problem. It also has ownership problem, all these problems which I can share about very soon. Last week, I just upgraded my FIFA or FC25 from FC24. And then when I go into the Ultimate Team, which is one of the mode in these games, all my players, I have to start training them and playing them again just because I upgraded the game, right? And I never owned these guys. I never owned these players, even though I've spent hours and hours playing and investing my time in training all these guys, but I never actually owned them. And maybe just one upgrade, I actually have to replay a lot of the games I have played before. And the game company owns it. I never own it. And then, on the other hand, game industry is very aversive to innovation. Call of Duty is a very long-term brand name, but it has come into like 3 different lines, like Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and then each of these lines have like 6 or 7 generations, or 5 or 6 generations. And the problem is, it's always the same game, basically. It's always the same game for years and years. And people are starting to get bored, right? And then obviously, there's the privacy problem, where in Fortnite, all types of data of the users are being grabbed by the company, and they use it for other purposes without the user to know and understand. So are we able to solve this problem? So far, going back to the basic principles, I think we can, of course, because in Web3, we are able to give the digital ownership of all this data back to the user because of blockchain technology. We are able to tell the users exactly, because of blockchain, because of this transparencies, that users will be able to understand exactly how this money is being made, how the loot boxes, how these random numbers are being generated, and what's the odds of doing that. And of course, we are able to give the ownership of whatever is being generated by the users, which is all this blockchain technology can bring. However, the problem is we haven't solved it yet. And that is the reason why all these token prices of all this game has went down by 90%, except for our token though. But all of the other games have went down by 90%. So why is that? Because we have not solved the problem. Can we solve the problem? Not yet, but I think we will. And most of the time, for the technology be able to solve a problem, you actually need an environment where you can see a lot of other technology being available as well. For example, you have a very good mobile devices, but if the internet is not strong enough, you won't be able to play mobile internet games on it. You can only play Snake or some very Minesweeper, those type of games, but you won't be able to play multiplayer games. But even if the device is very, very strong, but with internet, then and the mix of the two, then you'll be able to do it. And the same for Web3. Without AI, a lot of the problems we won't be able to solve it. But with AI, for example, that when the users be able to generate content very easily with AI, then we will see these users actually want to have ownership of this content that they generated. But without, there's only a very small number of players who will be able to generate content, and only a very small number of people will care about ownership in games. And of course, AI can also bring us into other stuff like simulated gameplay, like emotional intelligence, and dynamic NPCs. You can think about Doraemon, or you can think about Westworld type of scenario. So for us, Exterio, we are very focused on AI gaming. All the games that we are making, we are a Web3 publishing platform. We have a game called Paleo, which basically is the beginning of AI. In the early days, we have all these pets who are using AI to have emotional engine, who have dynamic gameplays, who have dynamic AIs. We have many other games coming out with this IP, but the first game is called Paleo Trade and Craft, where players will be able to craft easily all different kinds of weapons and be able to sell it inside the marketplace within the game. And then we have the Age of Dino, which is a game that, which is also an IP that we have many different games. And one of the games that we are working on now is what I call AI simulated gameplay. So that is all AI based, so that you'll be able to see infinite numbers of possibilities of the dinosaurs in extinction scenario. And then, of course, we have another game called Braves, Overworld Braves, which is based on the monetization, is fair monetization. It's not so much AI, but it's about fair monetization and fair ownership. And Exterio itself is a platform. Besides making all these games, we use all different kinds of technology to enhance these games and to enhance, the bringing more Web 2 players into Web 3. So I am very, very hopeful or very, very optimistic that AI is going to save Web3 game, and we will be the forefront of doing that. Thank you very much.